Hi, welcome to the Earth+Flax studio. Today we are in beautiful Lancaster, Pennsylvania at a historic home. When working with linseed oil putty and linseed oil paint, the process is pretty basic, but sometimes things can go wrong. This video will be about kind of our quick fix. What can we do if an issue occurs? If we get separation between the glass and the putty, if we have cracking and so on. These are steps that you can take if you're using the Swedish window craft methods for window restoration. These methods can also be used for general maintenance if there's any damage to the putty line. That could be human or animal or weather-related damage. The same steps apply. Looking at this sash in particular, you can see that we are getting some hairline cracks concentrated just on the putty line. And the three most common mistakes or issues that you might have with linseed oil putty is that one, shellac wasn't applied to the glazing grooves. There is some other methods, but that's the most common and sort of the fastest option. Two, what was the timing? When was the linseed oil putty painted? You really should paint linseed oil putty with linseed oil paint right away. Otherwise, you need to wait multiple weeks for the putty to fully cure before painting. And then finally, with something added to the linseed oil putty or linseed oil paint, maybe chalk to the putty or a dryer to speed up dry time with the paint. So looking here, it's most likely either a dryer was added to the paint or they waited for the linseed oil putty to skin over, after a couple of days, but not long enough for the putty to fully cure before painting. So what do we do? The steps that we cover next will be what we consider a quick fix. We are maintaining the work that we've already done, the restoration work that has already been done to this sash. And that is unique to the traditional materials. Modern materials, you would really need to start over, whereas with these traditional materials, the linseed oil putty, the linseed oil paint, we can actually go in and adjust if a mistake has been made and still preserve all that labor and hard work that went into the restoration process. So the Dana linseed oil putty was used on this project, and we are going to create a linseed oil putty syrup, mixing the Dana with the Viking purified raw linseed oil. So when you open your linseed oil putty can, you want to take a little bit of putty in your hand, warm it up, massage it a little bit, and then we're going to add the Viking purified raw linseed oil gradually, kind of work it slowly into a smooth syrup. This is a pretty good consistency. You can thin it out even a little bit more. You can make it a little more firm depending on the sash that you were working on. So you can take a fine bristle brush, work it into the bristles a little bit, and then you're going to work it into these hairline cracks. Depending on what the project is, what the putty line looks like, you may want to apply thicker linseed oil putty in some areas, but for these, we just really want to even out that surface and create a little bit of structure before we paint. Once we've worked that putty into the cracks, we're going to wipe off excess putty from the putty line. With linseed oil paint, you always want to make sure that you mix very well between each use. As the paint here has real pigment. The Autosan doesn't really settle out very much, but it's something to always be aware of. You can't just shake the can and go ahead and paint. You want to make sure that you mix it well. Use a kitchen stick mixer, use a paint mixer, just use a stick like I am and find a little patience. Once your thin putty is applied, You've kind of removed any excess. Maybe you've dusted with chalk if needed, although that's not required here. You want to go ahead and paint with your linseed oil paint. Apply a relatively thin, even coat. If you need to paint onto the glass, go ahead and do so, especially if there's separation between the glass and the putty. That's really important. Fill in that seam with your syrup, your linseed oil putty syrup, and then go ahead and make sure you paint over that seam to create a good seal.